Good evening, Professor Hoffman. I will be presenting my work report. I completed two use cases. The first one was fleeing behavior agent, which I've finalized, and I will show you the end result of that soon. And then I also worked on the pest NPCs use case, and then you will see that soon as well. But to start off with fleeing. Essentially, I just have the different headers for the Unity UI, and then for the actual functionality itself, over here we're just checking to see if the agent has a rigid body component. Otherwise, that'll throw errors. And for our flee from predators function, essentially what we're doing is we have colliders. And so what those do is when the agent comes into a specific radius, um, with the enemy agent, that's when fleeing will trigger, and the friendly agent will um, essentially go in the opposite direction of the enemy. And so that's for most of the fleeing functionality itself. But I also added specific like mathematics on how fast the agent should run away, depending on how close the agent is to the hostile NPC. And I also added functionality that makes it so that the agent, when the agent is fully outside of the radius against the enemy NPC, he will turn around and look at that hostile NPC almost to give it a realistic approach to fleeing, rather than simply having the agent not move at all and just shift away from the enemy agent. And I'll show you this right now. 1 second, you'll see that when the enemy will get into the radius of the agent will shift away while staring at that hostile NPC. And then it's at this point that the LLM will be prompted, and then it'll tell the agent, or the LLM will decide, okay, I'm no longer in range. Now I will continue gathering food. And so for the next feature, it was the pest NPCs. And essentially, for the pest states, there are four different states that the pest will inhabit. Um, there's the wandering state where the pest simply moves around wandering. And then there's the found habitat state. This is where the pest identifies the agent's habitat. And the next one is go to habitat with food. This essentially is the state that allows the pest to essentially identify if it wants to go inside the habitat. And then there's eat food and run away, which are pretty self-explanatory. Here we have different settings for the different states, like wandering. We have a wander radius and a roaming distance, so that they don't go too far. And then we have the habitat settings. This is like detecting the habitat where it is, so on and so forth, whether the habitat contains food inside of it or no. And then we have the running away settings. And for this, this has to do with if a pest comes into contact with an agent, um, what's the radius for it to detect that, and how far should it run away? And then we have other things like coroutines, like eating food. And so the rest of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Um, like for example, over here we're finding the agent tag, and this essentially allows the pest when it comes to contact with an agent to be able to handle all the functionalities. And we have agent in range. This checks if the agent is within the radius, and then if that's the case, then the pest will be running away from the agent at that state. And then we have wandering. Over here, we essentially wander until the pest detects the habitat. And if that's the case, then we change the state to the found habitat state. And if the pest is within that found habitat state, then it's going to go to the habitat to collect food or to steal food. And then we do a similar thing right here, but this is until the pest reaches it. then it'll swap to the eating food state and start actually eating the food. And over here, this is for running away. It's essentially what I explained earlier. When the pest is within the radius against an agent, then how fast will it run away? How far will it run away? And then we have wandering. Wandering is just for roaming purposes. So the pest will roam around the map essentially until it finds an agent habitat or it comes into contact with an agent and needs to run away. And this is more just for getting a point in the nav mesh. This is more for map work. And then we have a Boolean function to detect habitat, which checks if the habitat is in range. And it's the same for the others for setting the runaway destination and the food coroutine. And then over here, we have the actual physical running away from the threat. So the threat being the agent. And this is a collision check to see if the pest collides with the agent. Now, let me show you how this looks like on Unity. So if I press start, then you'll see here that the pests, which are like little rats, try to find the habitat. But if the agent is there, then the pest will run away. So you could see the agent guarding the habitat range and telling those pests to get out, get away from here. Shoo, you can't be here. Um, and so, yeah,